Welcome back to another video, folks. Today we're talking about the Godzilla universe and its vast array of characters and villains. As we delve deeper into this world, we find some characters who are broken in terms of strength, and some who are just born strong, and some who seem so weak that we wonder why the creators even bothered making them. But before we write off all these weaker characters, let's take a moment to consider their importance. Just like in real life, not everyone can be a powerhouse, and weaker characters can play an essential role in building a rich and diverse world. They serve as fodder for stronger opponents, as supporting characters to give context to the story, or as an underdog who rises to the challenge and becomes a hero in their own right. So while it may be tempting to focus on the strongest and most impressive characters in the Godzilla universe, the weaker ones are just as important to create a dynamic and engaging story. So stick around as we explore the most weakest kaiju in all of Godzilla history ever. Welcome to Kaiju Check.
Day and night. What? I toss and turn, I keep stressing my mind. What? I look for peace.
1, 2, 3, I let it go, man, around me, you love me so, and I know what's so.
Baragon is a kaiju in the Godzilla universe that has been around since the 1960s. He's often considered one of the weaker kaiju in the franchise, and for a good reason. While he has some unique abilities like his burrowing and heat ray attack, he lacks the sheer physical strength and durability of some of his counterparts. Baragon's size is also relatively small compared to many other kaiju in the Godzilla universe, making him an easier target for larger and more powerful creatures. In his appearance in the movie Frankenstein vs. Baragon, he is easily defeated by Frankenstein despite his burrowing and heat ray abilities. But despite his weakness in terms of brute strength, Baragon does have his strengths. He's agile and quick, able to dodge attacks and move quickly through the ground and destroy all monsters. He even manages to take down several military vehicles with his heat ray attack. Overall, while Baragon may not be the most powerful or intimidating kaiju in the Godzilla universe, he still deserves a spot in the list of weakest kaiju ever. But just like any other kaiju, he still has his unique abilities and quirks that make him an interesting addition to the franchise. Overall, I give it a Timo score of 6 out of 10 in the weakness scale. On to the next one. Ebirah, the giant crustacean kaiju, is another character in the Godzilla universe that is often considered to be one of the weakest. He first appeared in the 1966 film Ebirah Horror of the Deep, and while he's made appearances in other films and media, he has yet to prove himself as a formidable opponent. In terms of size, Ebirah is relatively small compared to other kaiju like Godzilla, and his fighting abilities are limited. He relies mostly on his claws and pincers to attack, but even those are not particularly strong compared to other kaiju attacks. His ability to shoot water out of his claws is also not a particularly effective attack against larger, stronger kaiju. Additionally, Ebirah is weak to electricity, which puts him at a significant disadvantage when fighting Godzilla, who can emit powerful electrical charges in Godzilla Final Wars. Ebirah is quickly defeated by Godzilla in their brief encounter. Overall, while Ebirah may have unique appearances and some interesting abilities, he simply cannot compete with kaiju like Godzilla in terms of strength and power. It's no surprise that he's often considered to be one of the weakest kaiju in the Godzilla universe, and easily earns a spot on the list. I give this a score of 9 out of 10 Gordon Ramsay lobsters. Kamacuras is a kaiju in the Godzilla universe that first appeared in the 1967 film Son of Godzilla. While Kamacuras may have some unique abilities such as his sharp claws and ability to fly, he's often considered to be one of the weaker kaiju in the franchise. One of the main reasons for this is Kamacuras' over-reliance on numbers rather than actual strength. In Son of Godzilla, Kamacuras is shown to be relatively weak in one-on-one combat with other kaiju like Godzilla and Minilla. Instead, he relies on attacking in large groups using swarm tactics to overwhelm opponents. However, this reliance on numbers is not enough to make Kamacuras a formidable opponent. In later appearances, such as in Godzilla Final Wars, Kamakuras is quickly dispatched by Godzilla and other kaiju without much difficulty. His swarm attacks are not enough to overcome the sheer physical strength and durability of other kaiju in the Godzilla universe. Overall, while Kamakuras may have some unique abilities and tactics, he simply cannot compete with other kaiju like Godzilla in terms of brute strength and durability. His over-reliance on swarm tactics makes him an interesting addition to the franchise, but it also makes him one of the weakest kaiju in the Godzilla universe. I give it a score of 20 out of 10 Kung Fu Panda mantises. Next one.
Like, I'd expect her to sear a beef in its shit!
Okay, Sean.
Fucking shit!
Gabara is a kaiju in the Godzilla universe that first appeared in the 1969 film All Monsters Attack. While Gabara may have a unique appearance and some interesting abilities, he's often considered to be one of the weakest kaiju in the franchise. One of the main reasons for this is Gabara's lack of actual strength and fighting ability. While he may have sharp claws and electrical powers, he is simply not skilled in combat and is easily defeated by other kaiju like Godzilla and Minilla. Furthermore, Gabara's strength is largely based on intimidation and fear, rather than actual physical prowess. In All Monsters Attack, Gabara is shown to be a bully who terrorizes other creatures, but when faced with a real challenge, he quickly backs down and becomes scared. This fear and lack of confidence in combat make Gabara a weak kaiju overall. He's unable to hold his own fights against other kaiju and is easily intimidated by stronger opponents. Overall, while Gabara may have some unique abilities and traits, his lack of actual strength and combat ability, as well as his over-reliance on intimidation tactics, make him one of the weakest kaiju in the Godzilla universe. I give this a 7 out of 10. Okay, next. The giant condor is a kaiju that appeared in the 1961 film Mothra. While it may have been an interesting addition to the film at the time, it's often considered to be one of the most weakest and most unnecessary kaiju in the Godzilla universe. One of the main reasons for this is the giant condor's lack of actual strength and unique abilities. It's essentially just a giant bird with no special powers or skill that make it formidable for other kaiju. Furthermore, the giant condor's appearance in Mothra feels forced and unnecessary to the plot. It's essentially just a brief obstacle that the heroes have to overcome before they can continue their journey, with no real impact on the overall story or characters. Overall, the giant condor feels like a bland and forgettable character in the Godzilla universe. Its lack of actual strength and unique abilities, as well as its forced and unnecessary appearance in Mothra, make it one of the most weakest and most useless kaiju in the franchise. This is the most useless kaiju ever to exist. I give this a score of 100 over 100. Perfect score of uselessness. Okay, next. Kamibas is a kaiju that first appeared in the 1970 film Space Amoeba. While it may have had an interesting backstory and an appearance, it's considered to be one of the weakest kaiju in the Godzilla universe. One of the main reasons for this is Kamibas' lack of offensive abilities. While it may have a strong defense mechanism with its tough shell and ability to absorb energy attacks, it's not particularly skilled in combat and lacks any real offensive power. Kamiba's slow movement and limited mobility make it an easy target for other kaiju. It's unable to quickly dodge or avoid attacks, making it vulnerable to stronger opponents like Godzilla or King Kong. Overall, Kamiba's lack of offensive abilities and slow movement make it a weak kaiju overall. While its defensive abilities may be impressive, it's unable to hold down its own fights against other kaiju and is easily defeated by stronger opponents. I give this a score of 6 out of 10 turtles. Next one. Warbats are kaiju that appeared in the 2021 film Godzilla vs. Kong. While it may have had an interesting design, it's often considered to be one of the weakest kaiju in the Godzilla universe. One of the main reasons for this is Warbats' lack of impact on the plot and its role as a cannon fodder. It's essentially just a minor obstacle that Kong has to overcome before facing off against stronger opponents like Godzilla and Mechagodzilla. Warbats' lack of any unique abilities or skill make it a forgettable character. It's essentially just a generic monster that exists solely to get beaten up by Kong, with no real impact on the story or characters. Overall, the Warbats feel like a bland and uninteresting addition to the Godzilla universe. While it may have had an interesting design, its lack of unique abilities and forgettable role in the story, I give this 8 out of 10 Draculas. Next. Mogwera is a mecha that first appeared in the 1957 film The Mysterians, and later in the 1994 film Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Despite its cool appearance and technological abilities, Mogwera is often considered to be one of the most useless mecha in the Godzilla universe. One of the main reasons for this is Moguera's lack of offensive power. While it may have impressive weapons like lasers and missiles, its attacks are often ineffective against stronger opponents like Godzilla or Space Godzilla. Furthermore, Moguera's limited mobility and lack of agility make it an easy target for other kaiju. It's unable to quickly dodge or avoid attacks, making it vulnerable to stronger opponents in close combat. Overall, Moguera's lack of offensive power and limited mobility make it a weak mecha overall. While its technological capabilities may be impressive, it's unable to hold its own fights against other kaiju and is easily defeated by stronger opponents. It's essentially just a waste of metal, with no real impact on the story or characters. I give this 8 out of 10 tin cans. Okay, next one. The giant octopus is a kaiju that first appeared in the 1962 film King Kong vs. Godzilla. Despite its intimidating name and appearance, the giant octopus is often considered to be one of the weakest kaiju in the Godzilla universe. One of the main reasons for this is its lack of impact on the plot and its role as a minor obstacle. It's essentially just a random kaiju that King Kong has to fight before facing off against a much more stronger Godzilla. The giant octopus lack of unique abilities or skill make it a forgettable character. It's essentially just a giant monster with tentacles that tries to attack King Kong with no real impact on the story of characters. Overall, the giant octopus feels like a bland and uninteresting addition to the Godzilla universe. While it may have had an intimidating presence, its lack of unique abilities and forgettable role in the story make it a forgettable and unremarkable character, similar to the giant condor. This is also pretty bad, I'd say, the worst. So 100k out of 100k score of why did this exist? Kumonga is a kaiju that first appeared in the 1967 film Son of Godzilla. Despite being a giant spider, Kumonga is often considered to be one of the weakest kaiju in the Godzilla universe. One of the main reasons for this is Kumonga's lack of unique abilities or skills. While it may have the ability to shoot webs and spit venom, these attacks are often ineffective against stronger opponents. Additionally, Kumonga's slow movement and lack of agility make it an easy target for other kaiju in close combat. Also, Kumonga's role in plot is often forgettable, serving as a minor character for the main characters to overcome. It's essentially just a giant spider that tries to attack the human characters and Godzilla, with no real impact on the story or characters. Overall, Kumonga's lack of unique abilities, slow movement, and forgettable role in the story make it one of the weakest kaiju in the Godzilla universe. While it may have the potential to be a formidable opponent as a giant spider, Kumonga's underwhelming abilities and lack of impact on the plot make it a forgettable and useless character. It should have been better, but unfortunately it wasn't. I give this 9 out of 10 arachnophobias. And for the last one, Minya, also known as Minilla, is a kaiju that first appeared in the 1967 film Son of Godzilla. Minya is often regarded as one of the weakest and most unusual kaiju in the Godzilla universe. One of the main reasons for this is the unusual design. Minya is a small and chubby creature with a round face and big eyes that some fans find appealing. Additionally, Minya's ability to blow smoke rings instead of breathing fire, which is a common ability for other kaiju, make it seem weaker and less threatening. Furthermore, Minya's role in the story is often limited to being a sidekick or a tag-along for Godzilla. In some instances, Minya is portrayed as being cowardly and reliant on Godzilla for protection, which further adds to its weak image. Despite its weakness, Minya has become a popular and memeable character in the Godzilla fandom. Its unusual design and personality have made it a favorite among some fans, and it has appeared in various parodies and spin-off media. Overall, while Minya may not be the most powerful or impressive kaiju in the Godzilla universe, it has its own unique charm that has made a memorable and beloved character for some fans. Thanks for tuning in to Kaiju Check, where we've taken a closer look at some of the most weakest kaiju in the Godzilla universe. While these creatures may not be the most impressive or powerful opponents, they still play an important role in creating a rich and diverse world full of memorable characters. Except for some, which need to rot. Whether they serve as fodder or stronger opponents, or provide comic relief, each kaiju brings its own unique flavor to the story. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into some less well-known kaiju in the Godzilla universe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.